Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 11. I'm your host, Osiris Prime, and tonight I have two co-hosts here. Since there's two of us, like last week, we actually got a third going. So we have Mr. DBQ Hams. DB, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And yourself?
Good.
I
Doing
see
good.
you've got some Nintendo licensed products up behind you,
That's
so
right.
very fitting for our discussion tonight.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I'm doing good. It's nice and cool out here tonight, so that's nice. It's not hot and muggy like it has been.
Exactly. And who else is joining us tonight?
Well, we have Mr. Swissguard. Swiss, I think you skipped a week there, but that's all right. We'll welcome you back. How's it going?
Not bad, not bad. Glad to be back.
Good. I'm glad we got everybody back. Once again, we have Zeus's. He's taking a little break, from the core show. I think he'll be back for the Thursday show for the news show, I believe, and for the Dark Hypothesis on Wednesday tomorrow. But tonight, the three of us, we're going to talk about the Switch, Nintendo Switch. I know it's been a while since we've talked about it, about a week, but we're going to go over the first, 6 months of the system. Maybe the next 6 months or even beyond. See what's going to come out and what they got coming up for the Switch. And then we'll also, as usual, we'll go over our playlist. And then one correction I want to do from last week, because my first time back after like 2 or 3 weeks off, I messed up my Mixer Twitch name there. It's Osiris Prime, but last week I had it as TowelMaster99. That was my bad. But let's move on. Let's go to our topic of the week. So the Switch, gentlemen, you both have it. You both play it. I'm assuming. I'm gonna figure you do. I know Swiss was this past week or so he had a little bit of playtime. But so we want to talk about here tonight. Just kind of go through like the first 6 months, how it's been for you, and how you might think it's been for the general populace. Just game wise, system wise, what do you think of it? Anything that you have any problems with it, or just like total annoyances like that, anything like that. And then after that, we'll try to jump into maybe the next 6 months or so. Just as far as that game releases, obviously we have the online component coming out. I think next year. We'll talk a little bit about that, and they've done a little bit of it right now, I suppose, bare bones, I guess, just with the different games that have online capabilities. But maybe we can talk about what we think it might happen once that comes online. So let's talk about the launch. You guys got it. Well, I don't know if you guys got it on day one or not. DB, I think you did. Did you?
I did. I did not pre-order it, but I showed up at a Best Buy and looked like there were under 30 people there, and so I jumped in line and picked it up on the first day. Plenty of in stock, which was not the case for quite a while afterwards. And I think that as we think about kind of the state of the console and where it's at, some of those shortcomings in terms of supply shortage over the first 6 months certainly have impacted its sales numbers.
Yes. Swiss, when did you pick it up? I don't remember. I don't know if you ever said.
I managed to glance at my phone in June and see like a 30-minute window that it was in stock at Best Buy. So I bought it online out of pretty much luck, but it was in June.
All right, so you were one of the one of the people there trying to look for one at one point, as was I eventually. So yeah, I mean, launch I think went fairly well. I don't think there was any problems, not that I really saw. I mean, I didn't pick one up at launch, unfortunately. I had to cancel my I was gonna say my preload, my whatchamacallit. You just mentioned it, a DB. I'm stumbling here.
Pre-order, yeah.
Pre-order, thank you. But I picked it up later on. I think actually probably a month after Swiss did or so. So when you're in the store, DB, that day, did it look like they had enough to go around, at least at that point?
On the very first day, again, this was within the first hour of launch. Yes, they did. Right, if you showed up within the first half hour of launch, there was enough there. They had set a significant amount aside. There were people still coming in, but within the first hour, they were out. Right, and that continued for quite a while. As Swiss was talking about, a quick inventory update in the summertime, but I think that also the NPD numbers in April and May and even in June, where the PS4 outsold the Switch, really speak to some of the supply shortages. And it wasn't until Splatoon last month in July when the Switch seemed to begin to be a little more readily available, that you could actually walk in on store shelves and pick it up. And that was actually the case at the beginning of August. I was in a Best Buy and they just had some sitting on the shelf again for the first time in a while.
Yeah, when I finally did pick it up, I had been looking for a little while, even before I was actually thinking of picking up. I just kind of wanted to see how the stock was, and I didn't see anything for the longest time until I actually picked one up. I think it might have been one of those, the email sites that, the email out to you, that I saw they had at a couple different stores. I went to one, they didn't have it. I went to the other one, they had like 3. So I was kind of surprised. I was like, whoa, okay. And then since then, actually, though, since I've still been looking a little bit, not that I'm going to get a second one, but, I see them in the stores now, at least 2 or 3 every once in a while, and on, Facebook group posts that or Facebook group, excuse me, that I am subscribed to. They always showing pictures of, hey, there's stock here and there. So looks like they're starting to come out now more. It's obviously, it's fall's coming up. It's that season. So I'm going to assume they're going to start having more and more stock out there.
Yeah, the frustrating thing for me when I was searching for one was that GameStop seemed to have a majority of the stock, and then they would only sell theirs in like the bundles. So, you'd always end up having to throw in the extra accessory that you might not want. But I guess they do what they got to do.
Got to make money. But now, were there bundles, like you said, they're accessories? At least it was accessories for the Switch, or was it just like some weird, off like ThinkGeek thing, like a little
no, they were
or something?
Switch accessories, but like for me, I wanted Zelda, but I didn't necessarily want Zelda and Mario Kart Deluxe, and a travel charger. So it was just, I probably could have, if I had to wait a little bit longer, I probably would have jumped in on one of those bundles just and swallowed it, but swallowed the extra cost. But I managed to luck out and get, like, it was literally a 30-minute window of it was in stock at BestBuy.com, and I was able to just get what I wanted, which was the Switch, and because I had already actually bought Breath of the Wild in anticipation of of getting it at a game store. So
nice. Thus far, when we picked it up, and this goes for all of us, just the setup of the system itself, for me, it seemed fairly easy. I mean, I already had a Nintendo ID. I had already created one. I think you were able to create one, like, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe even a month before it actually came out. But as far as like the system itself, like the UI and just operating system, stuff like that, has there been any issues with anything that you find extra special, that you like, that you don't like? DB?
So I'll say, and I remember talking about this on the launch week review, was that this was the most simple setup, the easiest setup, and kind of jumping right into playing that I've had on a modern console for a long time. Right? There was a small day one update that came out, but it wasn't huge, and within less than 20 minutes, we were up and playing. By the time from box to game, it was a very short window of time. So, I mean, I think that in terms of getting it into people's hands and being able to play it is always a good thing. In terms of the interface, it still remains relatively barren, but I could also say relatively clean as well, right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. You don't have a real messy home screen. You have your most played icons, and you've got the ability to go back and dig a little bit more. I think the challenge becomes as people have more things sitting on their system, and I'll look to you, Prime, because you've been getting a lot of indie titles there, that as you get more things on your system, how is the management? Because I don't know that there's a lot of, do you get just big tiles of things that you have downloaded? Can you put them in folders or in groups? Are there ways to organize that?
Yeah, right now it's just still the same, just like the one little row that you have, and you just gotta kind of scroll to the right or scroll to the left, depending on how much you got. Yeah, I'm hitting that second page, I guess, if you want to call it that. I've bought a few games now, so yeah, I wish it was just like kind of like the Wii and the Wii U, where it was just like a wall of icons that you can set up there. But I guess it is what it is for now. I'm assuming that just like any other console, they'll probably hopefully upgrade it and add to it and do stuff like that. I don't know if you can do any folders right now. Not that I've seen, not that I've tried. So I don't know. Maybe that's one possible thing. Well, I'll have to check that out actually. Now that I'm getting more than just like I think it's like 4 maybe icons and maybe like a 5th one that's kind of cut off. But yeah, we'll have to see.
Were either of you guys early adopters for the Wii U? I didn't pick it up at launch. I didn't pick it up until the summer afterward. But one of the things I remember is how long things took between home screen to game to, exiting out of a game. You would sit in a loading screen just to get back to a menu for almost a minute. And so I found the interface really, really optimized in that capacity.
I don't think that I got the Wii U on launch, or it might have been a year or two into it. I've had it for a few years though, so it wasn't like a late purchase. I know what you mean about the loading screens. It's like you get up and you have the Mii's running around and everything, and then you have to jump into the main screen, and it felt like some of the games would take a while to load. But once I guess I like the tiles that, or the channels or whatever they called it, like Prime mentioned. But it definitely feels like the Switch has more pep. So I would agree with that. I would also agree that it's Spartan, but I kind of like that. Because I'm kind of crotchety about that. I don't need a lot of,
a lot of flash.
Yeah, social media integrations and whatnot all buzzing around. Like with the Wii U, they try to do that with like all the Mii's and talking. And I just want to, here's the games that I have and play it. And I think that was intentional.
Hold on, Swiss. At the 12-minute mark, we finally entered the old crotchety man territory of, crabby old gamer. Okay, now you can continue. But that was pretty good. It took us a while compared to some other nights, so this was good.
Get off the lawn, Nintendo.
Well, one of this kind of talking about the Spartan and the trying to be just clean and straightforward. This kind of came up this weekend, because I've been out of the house a little bit and took the Switch with me and my wife. And we were going to use it, and I was playing Zelda. My wife was kind of interested in Zelda, but the other thing that I wanted it for her was for Netflix, and I just assumed that Netflix was on there. I didn't look it up. It's just Netflix is on everything, and then I Googled it, and I was like, "Where's Netflix?" And no Netflix. There's one Japanese video app or something that's kind of just came online, but it's not because of anything with Netflix. Nintendo plans to have Netflix apparently, and I'm sorry I don't have the source for this. I just on my Googling, but they specifically and intentionally chose not to use Netflix now because they want to present the device as a gaming device first. So I think they just want that. They want their tiles of games, and they want people to approach it from that perspective rather than, I guess, viewing it as a multimedia tablet. I don't know. Do you think that's? I would just assume that Netflix is such a ubiquitous app these days that it wouldn't harm the perspective of the Switch. I don't think people would confuse it for a multimedia tablet if it has Netflix on it. Your TVs come with Netflix now.
So I'll say, and I'll kick it over to you, Prime. I think that if we were having this conversation, at the launch or even 3 months in, I would be very fine, and I still am, right? But I would be very understandable about Nintendo wanting to focus on promoting this as a game system. I think the fact that it's been 6 months and there hasn't really even been a conversation about it or a timetable, I think that that's the part where maybe it's a little more questionable. Granted, they have a good lineup this fall, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But it would be nice to have kind of a roadmap of what comes next. What types of features are there? In addition to Netflix, are there other streaming pieces? Are there other apps? Are there other kind of content management ways? Things like that. So yeah, I think that there hasn't been any conversation about the interface, about kind of the back end of it, and that's something that at this stage in the game, would be interesting to see what comes next. What do you think, Prime?
Yeah, I know they mentioned it. I can't remember if it was like right after launch or right after the full reveal of the system, um, about the apps, but they never really. They just said, yeah, it's coming eventually. But they didn't really give a timetable or anything like that. And I know lately I've actually seen a lot of people, once again, on these Facebook groups. So take that as a grain of salt. But there's been a lot more people, saying, hey, where's Netflix, where's Hulu, where's YouTube. I mean, these are like just basic apps. I don't know why they haven't thrown them on there yet. I mean, they have their big games out. I mean, more or less now. I mean, yeah, it's coming up to maybe they're just waiting for the holidays so they can just kind of throw it all out there at once or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's weird. I mean, I know on the Wii U they kind of pushed that. They had the was it Wii TV or Me TV or something like that, which kind of integrated into that you can use the pad with your television and stuff like that. So, and they had obviously they had Netflix and all that. So I don't know. Maybe they just yeah, like Swiss said, they just want to focus on games, and that's the priority right now, which is fine. And kind of going back to the UI and what you were asking before, yeah, I think it was like 2 years before I got the Wii U myself. So by then it was fairly quick. I mean, it was a little slow here and there, but I mean, compared to like the Xbox One or something like that, but it wasn't that bad. And it's just that minimalist, screen that you see now. That's fine. I mean, even the Xbox when it first came out, the Xbox One, it was pretty simple. And obviously when they started getting more games and stuff, they started kind of breaking down everything in the game section in the stores and stuff like that. So, like I said, I'm sure they're gonna update that and hopefully get that going a little bit better once they get more games and stuff out like that. And speaking of games, unless anybody else has any other comments, um, the first 6 months they've had some fairly good and big names that have come out. Obviously, we mentioned Mario Kart and Zelda. They had 1-2 Switch, which I guess did fairly well. ARMS, some other smaller ones, Binding of Isaac, Blaster Master Zero, Disgaea 5 Complete. Today, they had Mario versus Raven Rabbids, or I don't even know what the heck the title is, to be honest with you. I did buy it, though, so I just haven't played yet.
Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
It was something weird. Sonic Mania, Snipper Clips, they've had all these games, and obviously there's a ton more. They've had their, how do you want to call it? I shouldn't say virtual console, but their eShop is up with all kinds of, indies, and there's a lot of stuff, yeah, that has already been released. But I mean, it kind of rounds out the whole game section, so that's nice. A lot of Neo Geo stuff. I've seen that popping up there like almost every week. I think there's like a new Neo Geo game, one or two at least. But we're getting games every week, obviously. So in pretty big titles, at least once a month. Minecraft 2, I forgot about that one. What do you think overall of their game library? Obviously, launch was pretty slim, obviously, but they've been building it up over the months. So, Swiss, what are you thinking of their game selection right now? Anything they're missing?
Well, I'm not sure. Missing is kind of hard for me to describe. Yeah, there's so many ways you can go with missing. For me, it's just they have those few tentpole titles. I think you got Zelda. I guess Mario Kart 8 you can consider a tentpole because the Wii U wasn't a huge seller. And then, I mean, is ARMS a tentpole title? I would say that Mario Rabbids is, just because it's a Mario title at this point, and then it adds some variety to the lineup. But I wouldn't say that there's a lot. It feels like you got a few tentpoles, and then you have some indie smaller stuff to really fill out the like online purchases. But you walk into a GameStop and you look at the wall there, there's not a ton to get a ton of variety, but the games that are there are exciting. So I'm not really faulting them for that yet. That always feels like how Nintendo has always been. I'm kind of concerned going into next year because you have Mario coming out, Mario Odyssey, and then I guess Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is another one of the major ones from Nintendo, like first party. And then you got Kirby and Yoshi in 2018, but those are kind of your platformers. So it's good enough for me now, but I can see people getting concerned if they don't increase maybe some third party stuff, I guess.
Yeah, and you mentioned the tent poles. I mean, this is tent poles according to Nintendo, though, right? I mean, they said, "Oh, hey, we got obviously Zelda at the beginning, and I guess you can say 1-2 Switch, and I forgot what the other title I was gonna say. I can't remember right now, but you had that at the beginning, and then like the next month was I think Mario Kart. With that was their tent pole, and then you had Minecraft after that, and these are games that are already released, and these are games that are I don't want to say reboot, but a remaster. I guess you could say that. Um, I guess that the remasters is kind of what's kind of saved them. I'm going to say a little bit. They had Mario Kart. They have Pokken Tournament coming up soon. Thought there was another one that they actually released that was a remaster. Can't remember right now.
Yeah,
but,
the Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, Street Fighter 2. Yeah, that was Ultra remakes, whatever.
Right.
Coming out.
But I guess that's what kind of concerns me. There's nothing. I mean, Nintendo doesn't really have. You can argue that Nintendo doesn't have a lot of original content because they have so many of their core IPs that they kind of just reconfigure and put out there, and then they do a good job of keeping it fresh. But it's their IPs; they don't really come out with many new IPs. We forgot Splatoon 2. That's the one we forgot.
2, yeah.
But a lot of it just feels like a lot of the stuff that's come out, they're hanging a lot on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it's still just a remaster. And you got, Skyrim is a big one coming out, but it's been out for a long time, and it's been on all the other consoles. So I'm happy with what we have, but from a business perspective, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more.
DB looks like you're chomping at the bit here.
I am. I'm ready. Like Swiss has moved us in from the rosy first 6 months into the hazy cloudiness of what 6 months from now looks like.
Doom and gloom coming ahead.
I don't know that it's doom and gloom, but it's certainly not clear. So I'll say I'll give kudos to Nintendo for the first 6 months in terms of their game release, right? That whether or not these are actual tentpole titles or these are titles that Nintendo's giving room to spotlight, right? That they've given them room to breathe. If they packed ARMS into a fall release, it would have gotten buried. To put it into the summertime when there's nothing else, and I guess this is the benefit of. They made the best out of their thin launch lineup, right? Is that they were able to stagger those releases so that they had something new to talk about and to highlight, and then the indie titles kind of supplemented that. That, even with Mario Kart being a remaster, it still got lots of play, in part because it was kind of brand new and it was an easy game for people to latch onto at the very beginning of the system. And I think even looking into this fall, I think they have a solid lineup, but it also starts to get compacted a little bit. Or that you get Kingdom Battle now at the end of the month here. You get the Pokken Tournament DX toward the end of September. Now it looks like the Fire Emblem Warriors game is coming out early October. October 10th is what it seems to have a release date of now, which then puts Mario at the end of October, and then in theory there's Skyrim and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So all of those kind of come together, but then after that, there's limited footage of a couple different kind of truly kind of franchise titles with Mario and Kirby, but not much else, and I don't know that there needs to. We always want third-party support, right? That's always a benefit, but I do wonder of how many people that are purchasing, or at least purchased it from the get-go, that are single console family, single console owners, right? That is the Switch a multiple tier console? Is this the backup? Is this the travel console for people to play Skyrim on the go or a big meaty game on the go when they have a 4K or a 1080p game to play at home? So that's where I don't know what the third-party support will look like. We had EA come out a couple weeks ago to talk about FIFA, and that if FIFA sells well, right, this is the classic EA pitch, where this is going to tell us if we're going to put more things on the system, which doesn't always happen. The but we are getting FIFA, we are getting WWE, right? There's a couple kind of standardized sports games that are coming out this fall, but we still don't know anything about the spring. And that becomes, and it's not surprising to me because Nintendo always holds things close and then suddenly may release something. But I think Swiss, I'm with you in that kind of concerned outlook, is that there's, without necessarily knowing what's left is there, right? I mean, they still have the option of Smash Brothers, as their quick remaster, right? I mean, there's still a lot of games that they could remaster to put out, but then when we have this conversation in 6 months, are we just talking about that we're playing up-resed Wii U games, and is that a good thing? So Prime, do you have more doom and gloom for us, or do you have a little bit of ray of hope through that fog for the 6 months out from now?
Well, there's a lot I want to say right now, so let me go with just the future of the games as of right now. Actually, there's the first 6 months. Excuse me. So, I was kind of, I don't know if you want to say I was kind of poo-pooing it just now, but I actually thought it was pretty smart that they did what they did. They did have these, supposed tent poles or, whatever you want to call it, each month, and then, had the indies underneath them. A lot of times, like Xbox One and, PS4, even older Nintendo games, it would be like months before we would see anything, after launch. And here, they're trickling out games. So, I mean, that's good. They're getting stuff out there at least. But as far as like the remasters and stuff, Nintendo's like the master of putting games out again. I mean, people are kind of crabbing on it on the PS4 and on the Xbox One, but Nintendo's been doing it for a while. Maybe not necessarily remasters, but they just re-release old games. So I think people are used to it with Nintendo. I think, and maybe that's why they kind of got a pass a little bit, maybe. You heard some arguments and some grumbles, when they said, hey, here's Mario Kart, here's, Pokken tournaments coming out soon. Even you can even say that a little bit with Splatoon 2, because I think it's a pretty quick turnaround for Splatoon 2, because they'd been, a couple years since the first one came out on the Wii U?
2015. Okay,
yeah, so, I mean, you got that right away, and what was the other one we had just mentioned? I can't remember now. I can't remember what the other game I was going to mention, but like I said, I think it was pretty smart that they did it the way they did it. But for the future, you mentioned Skyrim, obviously Mario Odyssey, Fire Emblem Warriors. You mentioned there is a Fire Emblem, like a normal Fire Emblem game that's supposed to come out, and these games I'm rattling off. These are not in order, so I'm kind of jumping around as far as dates and stuff. FIFA 18, Lego Marvel Super Heroes 2. That's going to be in all consoles, obviously. NBA, No More Heroes. They had announced a while back. That's I don't even know if that's going to come out next year. You got Payday 2, which might come out this year. I don't know. I haven't really heard a release date for that one yet. Shin Megami Tensei, there's supposed to be a new one of that. Xenoblade Chronicles, obviously, you just heard. Rocket League, that's a fairly big one that's going to be coming out too. Obviously, another one that's been on other systems and PC and stuff like that. But still, it's coming out. And that's just a few of them that I was looking up real quick for the future. But yeah, you know what? After the holiday, we don't really see anything definitive, but like you mentioned, that's kind of Nintendo. They don't really talk like that in the future too much, other than Metroid 4, which that's probably way out in the future. So we're probably not gonna see that for at least another couple of years, I would assume. I mean, unless they've been working on it, which is possible since it's not the normal Prime guys that are developing it. I forgot what their name was.
We don't know. I don't know that we know what studio is doing Prime 4.
Yeah, I know they said it wasn't for
Retro.
sure. Right, Retro.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the name. Yeah,
Yep.
So it's some new studio, which who knows what that is. If it's like a third party that they've contracted in, like they do with Namco sometimes and stuff like that. But we don't know what the early 2018 and even mid and further out, we don't know what's going to happen with that. So we'll have to see. But the one thing I was going to say is, obviously, everybody says, third party, but if they don't get third party, will the indie games kind of save them on the system coming in the future? Obviously, it kind of lifted them up at the beginning, but do you think that's going to be, if we don't get a lot of third party EA stuff and Activision and Ubisoft and stuff like that, will indies save the system?
I I don't think it will be indies. Honestly, I think what propelled it at launch was Zelda Breath of the Wild, because with the Wii U, I don't think we had Zelda Breath of the Wild was released on the Wii U simultaneously with the Switch, but I'm trying to think. I don't think there was a mainline Zelda game released for the Wii U. They remastered Wind Waker, and they HD remastered Twilight Princess, I believe. So it had been a long time from a Zelda game, like a fresh new Zelda game, and then they completely, overhauled it from, I would say, the Ocarina of Time lineage there. So I think that really drove things. And then the indies, they had their monthly major counter releases, and the indies are just there to supplement. I don't really think if you didn't have Zelda coming out at launch, I'm not sure that the demand was there. I don't think people would be lining up for Snipper Clips. I mean, I know it's a great game, but that's not. That's not a system seller. I think people would be waiting until the holiday season and buying a Mario Odyssey bundle. So moving forward, it's just I just think that those are nice things to keep. I already have the system. I'd like to play something new. Oh, let's see what I have in the Nintendo eShop that I can pick up for $10, $20, rather than a reason for owning a Switch.
So maybe we'll say keep afloat. Maybe keep them up there. DB, what do you think?
I'll say that I'll go with keep afloat. Right. I think that for people that have purchased a Switch, that they are Nintendo fans, or they are enamored by the novelty and convenience of the Switch as a form factor, right? The ability to take it with you, whether you're going to someplace together as a family, if you're going on a plane trip, that if you're sitting in your own bed, that there's a lot of convenience there. And so for people that have already picked it up, they're going to be more attuned and more interested in just playing something on those on that experience. And so that's where indies can help keep it afloat. But for, I think as Swiss said, for your average consumer, or your consumer that has not picked it up already, that what's the bundle? What are the big titles that are going to get people to purchase it? And even this fall, I mean, Mario will do it. But even some of the other remaster titles, if they didn't convince people to pick it up during the Wii U phase, what's going to, convince them to pick it up? It's not going to be a system seller, maybe support. But, what are those system seller titles outside of Zelda, Splatoon, and now Mario?
So do you think, now that you mentioned Zelda and Mario, they have new releases this year, and even if you want to throw in Splatoon in there too, do you think that'll hurt them coming in the future? Because they've thrown out like the two for sure, biggest name brands out there. Do you think that'll hurt them in the long run?
I think that's why we got a Metroid 4 logo. I really do. So that would be why they threw that out at E3, I think, because you're right. They do release a lot of Metroid and Zelda games. It's been going, since the 80s, but they're not pumping them out once per year like a Call of Duty or Madden. So you're right. After this holiday season, some of the second tier franchises are going to have to keep moving things forward. And Metroid, I think, is an excellent one. My son's excited about Kirby, but I don't think that's a system seller.
Yeah. I was going to say one other thing and I forgot. You had mentioned how like EA and I believe Capcom and even Nintendo, I think, said this, but we're going to see how this game sells, and then we'll think about releasing more. I don't know. Do you think that's just like, I don't even know how to phrase this, but is that just a trend for them, kind of like how Nintendo's always been, almost kind of a thing, or what's your opinion on that comment that everyone seems to be saying lately?
I think it's safe PR speak, right? Like, we don't want to promise another game that we may not even have in development, but we really want you to buy our current game that's coming out next month. So let's tell you that this is going to be dependent on it. And it probably, I think there is some probably truth to that, as in a boardroom, if they're looking at at sell-through numbers, that's going to be meaningful. I think the install base, as they finish out the rest of the year and what the Nintendo Switch install base is for the first year and what that looks like is going to be meaningful. If the Nintendo Switch continues to sell at this pace, it could be very not so doom and gloom, but Prime, you're a great example of this, right? Like the install base of the Xbox One, we already know is not excellent. It's fine and good, but if the Nintendo Switch after 1 year is already going to be at 10 to 12 million is what they're projecting if they can keep demand up, then it becomes very viable in terms of just putting things out there for, if they can figure out good ways to port within cost-effective measures.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what game franchise might be the first where Nintendo isn't a 6 month later or 1 year later also ran port, but like a Final Fantasy 15, like, that came out for the PS4 and the Xbox One simultaneously. It'd be interesting to see if a major franchise like that released it for all 3 systems on day one and how the Switch would compete. Would people still buy it for the PS4, I guess, Pro or the Xbox One X for like the 4K and maybe the fancier graphics, or would they go for the portability? So I guess that'd be one thing to look forward to. But like you said, for now it's nice to just not make any commitments. There's no reason to anger customers.
Yeah, I don't think there's a game in the future that's going to happen with, at least not that I can think of. So it might be a little while before we see something like that. And just 2 quick things before we move on to our playlists that I want to bring up. Online service. Any idea what you guys think this might be? Is it going to be as robust as Xbox or as? so I see a lot of shaking heads. Come on. I mean, I know it's only going to be what, $20, $30 a year.
What games do we got? We got Splatoon 2. We got Rocket League, I guess Minecraft.
Yeah. Mario Kart.
Mario Kart. I'm just trying to
titles
think.
Maybe.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel like the library is there that needs a huge online ecosystem. So in a way, Nintendo can kind of shortchange it, and people are buying the system for Mario and Zelda primarily. So that's not online dependent.
You're giving them a pass on what they did put out there, right? Like we had a rosy look back on their first 6 months, but we totally missed the beginning of August when they released their Nintendo Online app, right? That ate people's phone batteries, that couldn't multitask, that you had to the functionality of it was incredibly limited, and got raked over the coals on social media. And I don't know that they've done a whole lot more with it since that point. And you're right. There's not a whole lot of other titles that really demand them to do it. But if they're not even updating the thing that they did put out, it'll be interesting to see what actually comes out. If this, if they keep that timeline, if they kind of delay that timeline as a make good, or if they haven't done a whole lot more with it because they're really building to this launch of what the full service is. And as they talked about it, right, that it could have virtual console games with multiplayer leaderboard stuff in it. And so it could be a whole nother way to kind of support, if they don't have big tent poles next year, maybe the reality of paying $20 a year for an ongoing couple nostalgia games might be enough to keep people hanging with the system as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not expecting anything like too spectacular out of their service, since the price is pretty low. Not that should really mean anything, but I mean, you do have to pay for it still. So I mean, there's got to be something substantial in the background that that's going to be running. I was just kind of wondering too. Now that you were bringing it up, do you think there's going to be a major release that they're going to kind of set this around, or are they just going to kind of throw it out there one day? It's like, oh yeah, here you guys go. It's good. Here it is, $20, whatever whenever you want, just pay for it, and you got virtual games or whatever.
Right. I think that would have been Splatoon 2. So I'm not from Nintendo. Well, Smash Brothers, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that could be the case, right? If they do a Smash remaster and they put it out with full online support and even some type of watching viewer mode, the ability to kind of lean into the Evo scene, it could be a way that would be a way to do it. So I'm sorry to cut you off, Swiss. Keep going. If you have other thoughts.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. I was just musing about what I agree with you. I think it's pretty pathetic in 2017 that it's this bare bones, or bare bones isn't even the right word. It's not bare bones. It's not there. Yeah. So it's just, I from a business corporate commander type perspective, I understand why they're not putting forth the effort, but I agree with you, DB, that I'd like to see more of an effort, just because it should be a standard feature of current generation gaming.
All right, so let's go with a final word here. I'm going to go around the horn here. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to go negative for one thing: the online talk. Hopefully, that's a little bit better integrated in the when they do their online service. Hopefully, it's like totally different, because plugging an adapter into your headset and the phone and then into the system, that's ridiculous. I know this machine isn't an online machine, but still it's a little bit silly. I was hoping that they'd be a little bit more advanced, but it is what it is, I guess. I don't even use it. I haven't even used it yet. So, and on Splatoon at least, I don't have any other online games other than Minecraft, but I don't have anyone like online that I can play with that. So, but I mean, like I said, it is what it is. But overall, I'm enjoying the system. I mentioned this last week, and Swiss mentioned this when I was out. I haven't touched my Xbox One since I've gotten the system. So obviously, there's something going on that that's clicking with me, because I was number one Xbox guy here on this, at least on this podcast. But I've switched over back to Nintendo, and honestly, I got Rocket League's coming out, Skyrim. I have Zelda, I have Minecraft already, so I'll be set for a while. Rocket League, that's pretty much all I was playing more or less on the Xbox One. So once I get that on this, honestly, I don't know what release for the Xbox that, other than maybe Battlefront, that I'll be getting in the near future. So I'm sticking with the Switch and Nintendo for now. DB, any final thoughts?
So I think final thoughts wise, I think we've hit in terms of the online aspect. I think the other piece, the positive piece for me, is that there's still enough there to keep me engaged, right? Like I can wander around Skyward Sword for quite a while, and Skyrim will provide that same opportunity. And then
Breath of the Wild.
I think Breath of the Wild.
You said Skyward Sword.
Yeah. No, I don't think I could wander around Skyward Sword. It's so linear. So thank you for catching me on that. Right, but I think that it still, the form factor has renewed interest in my household. I don't know that I'm picking it up. I'm definitely picking it up more than I was my Wii U, but my kids play it constantly, and that has pulled them away from other games on Xbox and PS4 as well.
Swiss?
Yeah, it's been very popular at my house. We pretty much play it exclusively in portable mode. So I don't keep it docked very often, but we basically just have the one family room TV. So it's great to be able to have, Bubble Guppies or Paw Patrol on the TV, and then some of the older kids are me playing playing the Switch. This afternoon, it was literally, some of us were playing the PS4. I had one kid playing the Switch, and I had another kid playing the 3DS. So, but I guess one last thought for me on like the form factor, a slight complaint is I don't think I'm a huge fan of the Joy-Cons, and I'm hoping that sometime in the future they lower the price on the Pro Controller, because it's just, I don't know, they're small, and I don't really know how those are actually going to work. They're just not the same as a Wii controller. Prime has his.
I got mine.
But that'd be one of my other concerns. I don't mean to throw off the conversation. We can jump into the playlist, but the Joy-Cons as individual controllers, a little gimmicky.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't tried it with the just like one little Joy-Con. I don't know. I guess I have a couple of games I could try it on, but I haven't really tested it out yet. And Swiss, actually, a question I was going to ask you guys, you answered it, Swiss. So you do it in handheld. I do it mostly in handheld too. When my son plays, he usually puts it on the TV. So, or almost always put it on the TV. DB, is it mostly handheld for you guys?
When I've played it mainly on the TV, but my kids mainly played in handheld. You know, that the ability to take it into their room and annoy their brother by not being able to play it. Yeah, handheld has been a big. Again, I think that's the big selling point of this is the flexibility that it provides players and families.
Yeah. So hopefully, we're going to see great things come from the system. Hopefully. So let's move over to the playlist real quick. We'll go through our list. DB, you want to go first? I don't see anything right now, but if you want to jump into what you've been playing.
Yes, I'll go first and I'll go quick. So yesterday I got, I had pre-ordered Destiny 2 on the PC. So I had a chance to play some Destiny 2 on the PC beta, and it is beautiful. It is silky smooth. It is, popping off headshots on consoles and having that poof of smoke is all the more satisfying with the keyboard and mouse because it just becomes all the more accurate. So my rig, and Zeus is not here to tell me that I'm running a low-end rig, but I'm running it's a i5. It's a lower end on the i5, and I'm running a GTX 1050 Ti. So toward the bottom end of GTX's graphic cards, at least in the 10 series. But even then, I'm running at a solid 60 frames per second. I'm running, my monitor is not a 2K monitor, so I don't have to, or a 4K monitor, so I don't have to worry about that. But it's,
do you have the settings maxed out, or
no?
Or is there a kind of setting slider? I don't know.
There are settings. When I booted it up, it ran in custom, which had most things in medium. And I put it up to high just to see what it would look like, and I got a little bit of a hiccup. So I brought it back down to custom, and truthfully, the resolution it's still prettier than playing it on the Xbox One, and it's still smoother than playing it on the PS4. So so that's been a real treat. Whether or not I've already been hesitating about it on the Xbox, and so now having a nice version on the PC to play might give me something to hold off on until October. I also played a little bit of the Dissidia closed beta, but I'm not really sure how much I can talk about that. Swiss, you were in it as well. Did you? I didn't read through the whole disclosure form. Can we talk about it, or maybe we should? Wait until it closes and then talk about it afterward.
I think I glanced at it. I think we can talk about it. They're allowing us to post pictures, I believe. Probably should double check it real fast again.
That was PS4, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I didn't see anything about like what's the word I'm looking for?
Basically, you can't disclose anything.
Yeah. I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah, no. So this is the PS4. It's a port and a conversion of the Japanese arcade game, again based on the PSP games, the Dissidia fighting games, which were one-on-one kind of Final Fantasy, Smash Brothers, Power Stone-like type of thing with a couple different features in terms of you have an attack and a brave, and the brave meter basically determines the strength of your attack. Really pretty, but as somebody who played a lot in the PSP when it was one-on-one, I found it hard, and maybe this is just the beta, but I found it hard to keep track of a 3-on-3 battle. Swiss, did you have a chance to play it at all? I know you got in, but I don't know how much you had a chance to play.
I've got a chance to play a little bit of it. This afternoon we played quite a bit, and then I played some on Saturday evening, and I tried to play a little Sunday night. I actually had some difficulty just getting into some online matches. So Sunday night I didn't even play because I sat in the lobby, and then it seemed to hang, and I couldn't get in. But I had never played it on the PSP, and so or the Vita. So it was kind of new to me, and it's different. I'm not sure.
Did you understand the systems? So like I kind of had an understanding of what to do. I did watch the tutorial, but there's a lot to keep track of, and I found it hard on a big screen to keep track of all the stuff going on.
Well, I jumped into the computer training mode, and I couldn't figure out how I was scoring or what was going on. Then I went back and watched the tutorial video, which I felt that was not adequate either, because it was just like a preloaded video and they rush through it and you have to read at the bottom, but then they're showing the stuff on the top of what's going on. So I had to watch it twice. You couldn't pause it or anything. But once I kind of got the concept, you fight with certain attacks to boost your power, and then you use your actual power attacks to try and knock people out. Yeah, I could play, and I started to dominate. I think that the training mode, though, I forget what they called it, but was a little too easy, because my son and I were just like first place. We're always winning. So that I don't really think that was adequate to really experience it. Did you get you said you did get a chance to play against others online?
No, so I didn't have a chance to play online.
Okay.
So I'm sure that is a whole different experience then.
It was. I got into about 3 or 4 matches. The first match, apparently somebody had been playing it a lot on the PSP, because he found me and he harassed me the entire match, and I was the reason we went out quickly. So that could be a little bit frustrating. You can get like peppered and pursued, and then they can like jump into another combo on you, and you can like not respond, and then you're knocked out. So it was a little frustrating. I was able to win one match, but it's chaotic. Let's say that.
I think we have one more week, Swiss. Is that right, for the
Till
beta?
the 5th, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, after Labor Day. But you know, I really like the flow of combat. It'll be interesting to see what the full release looks like. The original games always had a pretty beefy kind of story mode to them, and some kind of quest chains that you could do in a single player aspect. When you and your son were playing, could you play 2 people together on the screen, or were you just kind of couch co-oping it?
We're just taking turns. So I didn't even think about trying to do a 2-player mode. So
yeah, I don't think there is. So
what did you think about the levels design?
They felt very similar to what was there in the PSP. I mean, so it you know, some of them were pretty sparse. Sometimes you get a little bit of verticality. There were times in the PSP that you'd be running up the side of a castle and you know, jumping off at somebody, and you know, part of the challenge is tracking your opponent throughout the level, because the landscape shifts heights and verticality. So at least from what I saw from the tutorial videos and the little bit that I played, it seemed to fit within that. I'm sure graphically they're probably trying to do a whole lot more because it's on a more powerful system. So, but that was my thought. I mean, you hadn't had any experience with it. What were your thoughts?
I was just curious if you noticed, like, there were some levels that were taken from Final Fantasy games that were more recent, and there were some that were taken from like the old school stuff. And when it's like a level, and on an NES or an SNES, I can understand just like Blue with like the crystal walls, because they just needed a border for the little room that your characters are in the dungeon. But then that recreated in HD, you know, just blue crystals as far as the eye can see. It just felt like almost like a shortcut, or felt a little lazy almost. And I was, it might just be because they just wanted this demo level and they haven't really fleshed it out yet. But I was just curious if you had any thoughts on that. But as far as do you have any other thoughts on it that you wanted to touch
No,
base
I
with?
think maybe I'll try to play a little bit more this weekend, and we can talk about it next week as well. But go ahead and keep moving through your playlist.
All right. Beyond that was the big thing for me was the Dissidia of Final Fantasy. I'm still playing Breath of the Wild. I've gotten farther along in that. And that's kind of become my primary game because I finally finished Batman Arkham Asylum. Yay! Not gonna be harassing the listenership with the an endless stream of Batman Arkham Asylum commentary anymore on a 10-year-old game. So.
You were just honoring its anniversary coming up, right? That's what.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you got a backlog game done too, so I mean that's always good.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. The big thing was the Dissidia one, and it was fun, but it's odd. I'm not sure.
All right, cool. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a PS4, so I can't. You mentioned it was kind of Power Stony type of game that would be right up my alley, but unfortunately, I don't have a PS4. So maybe one day if they come out for something else, or if I get a PS4 somehow. But real quick, just to round us out here and end us here. Once again on Splatoon, or I mean, I should say Switch, all day, all night. Real quick, Splatoon 2, Go Team Flight. That's the Splatfest coming up. It's Flight versus Invisibility. It's superpowers coming up here. So I'm playing that, playing Zelda, of course, still going through that. Last two, though, Pokken Tournament demo I picked up. It was okay, I guess. I played it in the store when it was on the Wii U before, like GameStop or something. They had it up there. It was okay, I suppose. I don't know. A little too simple for me, I guess, which sounds kind of weird. DB, I don't know. Did you get a chance to play it, or Swiss?
I didn't get a chance to play it. I played some of it. I had rented it at some point in time, or GameFlyed it for a couple weeks when it came out on the Wii U, and it seemed simple until I got a couple, maybe 4-6 matches in against the computer, kind of moving through the story mode aspect. And then they really start throwing combos at you. And so, there's depth there. It certainly is there. But it also, I could hang with my son who figured out the depth, and while I just button mashed. So there's the capacity. But then once we were thrown against a computer that knew the combos, it gets pretty complex. So I'm curious to see, what kind of traction it gets based on our conversation tonight.
Yeah, I'll have to. Maybe I'll check it out again one day. Is that full price? Do you know when it comes out?
Yes, I think it is. I was just looking on the release calendar, and it looks like it's full price.
Oh, okay, that's kind of. I don't know if I'd buy it for full price, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe if I get some credit for something, Amazon or something, I'll pick it up. But
I can see that at holiday time, it might go cheap, right? Like that would be easy sale. But yes, right now it's $60.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I mean, like I said, I just played it real quick. Maybe I'll give it another chance, maybe. But and then the other game that I was playing, I picked up a new one, Fate Extella, the Umbral Star, I believe is how you say it. I have no idea what's going on in this game at all, like none.
Well, if you can't even pronounce the name, how did you decide to buy it?
Well, it was the gameplay style because it's a Muso, I believe is what they call it, kind of like Dynasty Wars, where it's just
game. That's right.
Yeah, where there's just endless guys on the screen that you kind of just like rip through. And I always like the Dynasty Warriors games, so I saw this. Actually, I think I heard it on maybe the Nintendo Voice Chat IGN podcast. They might have mentioned it a while back because I got behind on those podcasts, but they had mentioned it. I was like, oh, cool, I'll check it out. And that was like weeks ago. And then I was just kind of thumbing through the eShop, and I was like, oh, I saw it. I was like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna pick it up. What the heck? It was $60 though, which I wasn't expecting, but that's all right. I had some credit on Nintendo's eShop anyways, so I picked it up. It's probably the most anime game I've ever played in my life. I mean, seriously.
And the name didn't give it away?
Well, yeah, but I think you're like in a computer program or something. I'm not even really sure. They talk about programs and software and stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe, and I think this might be a manga or an anime or something like that. I'm not sure. I was trying to look it up the other day, but I didn't really have time. So, but it kind of just throws you into the story. So I don't know. But I'm having fun just because of the gameplay. it's, obviously, well, this is super simple too. I mean, you're just ripping through guys, but you have a light attack, heavy attack, you got special move, you got super ultra special moves. So it's pretty cool. So I'm enjoying for what it is. It's just, there's like stretches where it's just talking. It's almost like a Metal Gear Solid game or something. It's just, endless cutscenes. So that gets a little tedious at times, but I kind of, I'm going to try to piece together the story to see what's going on, but I'll stick with it. And then I picked up Mario and Rabbids, which I haven't played yet, so I'll talk about that next week. So that should be the end of the show. You guys have any comments about Fate Extella Umbral Star? If not,
all I was going to say is this is the point in the podcast where Zeus is watching and shaking his head. So we made it almost to the end before he would disapprove. So I think
okay. We did get the head shake for our car talk from last week on the new show. So we'll get it again this week, I'm sure, on Thursday. So speaking,
you say it's the most anime game ever. I hadn't heard of it, and I just looked it up, and I might actually have to look into that.
Yeah, so it's fun though. I mean, the gameplay is fun, so it's pretty and it's kind of easy right now. But I'm at the very beginning, so I mean, I've only gone through like one level because there's like 20 minutes of talking so far. So I don't even know if it gets harder, possibly. Who knows? But pretty openish. I don't even say openish, but there's big areas. There's kind of a big map that you can kind of go around the different rooms, and they're fairly large, so it's pretty fun. But yeah, I think that's we'll call it a night on that one. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more next time. I'll play it a little bit more besides that and Rabbids, and I'll concentrate on those two besides Splatoon 2, since I gotta do the Splatfest this week. But yeah, so I mentioned the Thursday show. That's our new show, E2KG in 30. Do that every Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern. I'm sorry, 9 o'clock Central. And then there's the Wednesdays, the Dark Hypothesis, the Dark Matters show with Zeus and Dave. They talk about, I think actually that might have finished, so I don't know if they're going to keep going with that or not. I think the season ended, maybe. Not sure. I thought he had mentioned something about that on Thursday's show. But you got that show, and then obviously you want to come back here next Tuesday, and at 8:15ish or so, we'll start up once again. We moved up a day, not on Mondays anymore, we're on Tuesdays. So on behalf of myself, Osiris Prime, Swissguard, and DBQ Hams, we will see you next time.